Good afternoon from London, and welcome to our international webinar series. And this webinar is on agribusiness technology and sustainability, sustainable finance. And we are trying to focus on beyond COP28, what is happening in practice. So today we have guest speakers from BRASFI and FDC Business School from Brazil. And we have colleagues from Brazil who will introduce FDC Business School as well as BRASFI organization. That could give you some idea how to engage with community from Brazil to work around sustainable finance and agribusiness and how they are applying technology and other things. But to start with, I would like to welcome our Dean from the CBAS College in Brunel Business School, Brunel University, London, sorry. And we will also, the Dean of the Business School will also join. So he is in another meeting, but he will join soon. So over to you, Tom, to give a warm welcome to all our participants in this webinar. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Bonamita, and really great to be here. I have to apologise to people because I have to go in about 20 minutes because I have another meeting. But what I would say is that I'm really pleased to see this webinar happening. The business school, the college more generally, but particularly the business school, really keen to develop more links with Brazil and with our colleagues in Brazil. We have just made a couple of appointments of Brazilian colleagues who are coming over starting in September. For reasons which aren't clear, we do seem to be building up quite a good collection of colleagues coming from Brazil, working on a whole range of issues, both in business school, but actually also in law and in one or two other areas. So that's really good. And I'm really excited by this possible collaboration. I think it's really interesting. It's really good for us as a business school to be working with colleagues from such an important area and country. So I wanted to welcome you all here. It's really great. And I'll hand back over to Bonamita.
Thank you, Tom. So thank you. I know that you have to leave, so please feel free to leave. We are getting this webinar recorded so we can play later on. Thank you very much. So I will hand over to Daniel now to introduce the FDC Business School from Brazil, and then he can introduce the first speaker, and then Daniel, you can hand over to Leonardo to talk about BRASFI, and then Leonardo can introduce Vivian to give her presentation. So the plan is both the speakers will talk for a couple of minutes, share their experience, and if you have any question, please feel free to add your question in the chat function. And we will try to pick up as many as possible from the chat questions. And I will also share the email address that you can write a request for a participation certificate after the event. Thank you. So over to you, Daniel.
All right, there we go. Thank you so much, Mona. It's a pleasure to be here. Very happy. We've been planning that for the last month. So it's lovely to see that we have a group of 50 people here watching us. Please feel free, guys, to open your cameras. Mono, if it's possible to allow them to open their cameras. No, it's not. Oh my goodness, no. I would love to see the people. I can't speak for just like letter. I can see like D, D, G, and etc. But anyway, sorry about that, guys. This is technology. If you want to say hi, we can use the chat. I'm going to introduce myself very quick and FDC. And right after, would love to introduce Marcelo Brito, our professor from FDC. Mona, could you please open Marcelo Brito camera? I think it'd be nice because I'm going to introduce him in a couple minutes. Well, if you want to post where are you from in the chat and field of work, it will be lovely just to have an idea about the audience. I would love to see. Well, I am Daniel Parreiras. I'm speaking from São Paulo, Brazil. I'm working at FDC, a business school in Brazil. And we have several solutions when we talk about executive education, and when you talk about research in the field of in several fields of management. And specifically, we've been working very, very deeply in a center that we call a global center for agribusiness. And we have here Marcelo Brito, as you can see his face, and Viviane Torinelli, who is two professors at FDC that focus their work on the field of, I would say, sustainable agribusiness, sustainable finance, and much more than that. If you want to know a little bit more about FDC, Lead Business School in Brazil, I will post here our website and some information. Feel free as well to write me. I'll let you know. I'll put my email here as well. Okay, cool. So, Mono, should I introduce Marcelo?
Please, yes, please.
I could stay here the full morning reading his CV, right, Marcelo? But I'll try to do my best giving a brief presentation. But Marcelo, please feel free when you have the floor to highlight a little bit about your experience as well. Well, Marcelo Brito, more than a professor, is a close and good friend. He's the executive secretary of the Legal Amazon Consortium in Brazil, technical coordinator of FDC's Global Academy in Agribusiness program, which is an executive education program, a very interesting one at FDC, and of FDC's Global Agri-Environmental Center, as I mentioned. He's an associate professor of the school. He worked in several areas as commercial director, sustainability director, and CEO of leading companies in the Brazilian agribusiness sector. Former VP at RSPO, the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil, founder of POIG, Palm Oil Innovation Group, and CEO of CBKK SA, Objective of Wellbeing and Conservation, former chairman of the board of directors of ABAG, which is the Brazilian Association for Agribusiness. Well, it's a very engaged professor and leader in Brazil, debating all these themes. So, Marcelo, thank you so much to be here with us. I know how hard it is, your agenda, and to separate an hour or 2 hours to be here with us. One more time, Mono, thank you for this partnership, and thank you, Thomas, for your opening speech. It's a pleasure to have this closer relation here. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mono.
Thank you, Daniel, for your introduction. And over to you, Marcelo, now.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you from the various parts of the world. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here with you, especially to talk about this very important issue where we relate technology to the new food systems worldwide. I would like to take my few minutes here to express my concern in how can we put together the three main pillars of the new food systems worldwide. The first one is science and technology. The second one is financing. And the third one is people. Science and technology is already available, worldwide available, but not in an easy and accessible way to everyone. So there is no way to compare how food production is moving in the northern hemisphere compared with the southern hemisphere. So in a few words, there's no way to compare what's going on in the EU and US with the other parts of the world that are much more poor. And despite having science and technology available, they cannot access. So we move to the second part of this changing process, which is the financing. So whatever we have in mind today when we talk about recovering soils, water access, and new production inputs biological inputs, and so on, we must realize that we will need to change the way we are financing food production worldwide. When we talk to banks and investment funds, what they have in mind is the risk analysis that they have been using in the past 50 years. Even despite the knowledge of the impacts of climate change, the risk analysis continues the same. If you look for grains or cereals or oil seeds or perennial crops, what you're going to use is the risk analysis system that you have from the past. But when you talk about the new food systems, especially looking for regenerative agriculture, we know that the risk analysis must be completely different. The use of biological inputs in agriculture changes completely the risking process that you have available today. It's just like you compare allopathy with homeopathy. Conventional agriculture is the one who uses chemical process. So it's just like having a headache. You take a med, and 15 minutes later, you're gonna be okay. So in the short term, you solve your problem, even though maybe you are affecting your body in the long term having those meds. Agriculture regenerative is just like homeopathy, where you have to forecast that you're gonna have a headache in 15 days time. And before you reach the 15 days, like 3, 4, 5 days before, you start to take your meds, your biological inputs. And maybe you're gonna be all right 5, 6, 7, 8 days later. So this is the change from conventional chemical to regenerative agriculture. So it completely changed the risk assessment. So we need to keep the financing, we need the money, but we need it with the same interest rate that we already have today. That's not the cheapest. And then we move to the third pillar, which is people. We must realize that we have over 2 billion small farmers around the world. And most of those are small, tiny areas without the proper access to science and technology, without the proper access to financing. So we have to convince them that whatever they have been doing in the past decades, that started maybe with his grandparents and then their parents, and now they're doing, you have to convince them that's not the right way to do it anymore, that they have to change to a new food system, to a new agricultural production system. And of course, you have to give them the guarantee that if they lose the crop, they're not going to lose everything. They're not going to put their family in danger, in hunger. So the third pillar of the complexity of the new food system is the most difficult, because we have to give people what they deserve the most, which is comfort. Comfort translated into security, that they will have to change their system, the way they're doing, but it's safe enough. They have the support of the financial sector, and they have the support of science and technology, and they have the support of the consumers, that whatever goes wrong, they can restart again from the initial point. So I'm not sorry not to bring you any solutions, but bring you lots of questions. But I think it's with those questions that we have to start to move and analyze the situation in various parts of the world, and to seek the solutions that can change food processing, food production, energy, bioenergy production worldwide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcelo. That's quite interesting, and I'm pretty sure that people got lots of questions. So please feel free to use the chat function to write your question, and we will try to pick up most of the questions at the end of the session. And before I hand over to Leonardo, let me introduce the Dean of our Brunel Business School, Professor Ashley Braganza. Ashley, are you here? I saw him. Not sure whether. Ashley? Wait 1 second. Okay. Ashley, can you hear me? I think. No, something gone wrong. Okay, let's continue with Leonardo. Sorry for that, Leonardo. So Leonardo is from Brasfi, from Brazil. So he will introduce Brasfi and also introduce our next speaker, Viviane. Over to you, Leonardo.
Thanks so much, Dr. Mortomita. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much for the invitation for Brasfi. Good morning, good afternoon, good night to everyone. That we over 6 people here in this webinar. It's a pleasure to talk with loads of people. My name is Leonardo Lima. I'm from Brazil, but I speak from Manchester, United Kingdom. I'm a executive director at Brasfi. Brasfi acronym means Brazilian Alliance for Sustainable Finance and Investment. We have been working as a network organization to share knowledge about sustainable finance in Brazil since 2020. Throughout those 3-4 years, we could impact people and also some projects in Brazil. For example, we could give job opportunities for more than 20 young professionals in Brazil, sustainable finance field in Brazil. We also could structure more than 20 short-term courses. And then also you could promote more than 40 webinars during those 4 years to spread more knowledge about sustainable finance. And then you could gather different professionals, different fields related to sustainable finance in Brazil to promote those webinars. Since the beginning of this year, because our good impact in Brazil, we structure a new strategy that now we are working to develop leaders and also solutions in Brazil. So starting 2024, we have a new strategy to focus on developing leaders and solutions in Brazil related to sustainable finance, ESG. Just to give some examples about the Brasfi in the Afolu sector, we could support the translation into Portuguese from GRI 13, that means for agriculture, production, livestock, agriculture, and fishing activities. We also could support our partner, Climate and Company, in the development of the report, Safeguards for Forest Rural Credit Requirements for Financial Institutions in Brazil. And also we have been supporting the taxonomy in Brazil that cover also agriculture. If anyone have any question, I'll put the Brasfi email on chat, okay, and then we can discuss more deeply about future partnerships. And now, it's a big pleasure for me to introduce Viviane Torrinelli, our co-founder at Brasfi. Viviane is a sustainable finance and corporate governance professional with over 20 years of experience, including risk management, control, compliance, and valuation in public and private sector in Brazil and abroad. Viviane Torrinelli is co-founder at Brasfi and also is a guest professor at FDC. Viviane?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Leonardo. It's a huge pleasure to be with you in this journey. Thank you very much, Monomita, Professor Ashley, Professor Thomas, also for the invitation. A big thank you for Daniel also in FDC for the opportunity. And it's an honor to speak after Marcelo Brito. So I hope I can add on that. I will do my best. And please feel free to your questions, and let's do it in the most easier way here our communication to make it flow in an easier way. Can you see my screen? Please confirm to me. It's for you. Yeah. It's okay.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. So the topic we will talk today, it's agribusiness technology and sustainability and sustainable finance. So talking our perspectives and the context and what we expect to see among this joint opportunity of using innovative technology to maximize sustainable finance for the good of a new and sustainable agribusiness, isn't it? I'm talking in a personal perspective, so there are no institutional views here, okay? In a broad sense, I think it's important to point out our context here for our talk. So we need to highlight the perception, the clear perception that climate risks are not something in the long-term horizon, isn't it? So we are feeling and we are facing the disruptions related to drought and heavy rains. I will bring some details in the next slide, but for example, for our local context in Brazil, but for sure, worldwide, you are all facing these examples. So this is already an up-to-date issue. Also, besides the climate risks and related to this global warming, we have broader environmental risks. So we have deforestation risks and loss of biodiversity, so nature-related risks that also we need to address. We are much more aware of the dangerous and the negative impacts that touch us all when we lose this biodiversity. Because of this perception, we are also facing transitional risks that are not only related to the clean energy and migration of the energy matrix, but for example, we will discuss a little bit more in the next slide about the changes in regulations, for example, for deforestation. And then we see challenges for the traditional business as usual, and in this topic in our presentation for agribusiness, isn't it? So when we jump to see, okay, we understand the context and what are the opportunities and what are the tools that we have to face and try to help us leading with this context. So what we see is that innovative technologies are here and can help us to address many of these challenges. We can exemplify, for example, IoT, Internet of Things, the use of satellites, images, the use of sensors. We have already, and I will give you examples of, for example, parametric insurances to agribusiness to try to collect and anticipate these climate risks and reimburses for agribusiness related. So trying to anticipate the problems of heavy rains and drought in specific lands. We can see also blockchain as an important tool, technology for example, the challenge of traceability that we have in agribusiness, and the artificial intelligence also for examples of innovative technologies that can support on this challenge. We see here also in the horizon the evolution of the carbon markets, voluntary carbon markets, and tentatives of regulated carbon markets, but also that brings challenges and opportunities for agribusiness also, and forest conservation. And what we can see is that connecting technology to this sustainable finance, we can maximize capital allocation to this new way of doing business, to this new economy, and specifically in the sector, in this new way of doing agribusiness, isn't it? So what we can expect with this allocation are positive environmental and social outcomes, higher incentives for regenerative agriculture, clean energy, inclusive value chains, isn't it? And at least at the end, more resilient, equitable, and sustainable food future. So giving just some data related to physical climate risks, for example, in Brazil, just an example, in 2023-24, the Brazilian soybean harvest suffered at least 15% losses due to irregular rainfalls distribution. So drought versus heavy rain in different regions of our continental country, isn't it? Also, another information is that according to the National Financial Stability Survey, that is a public survey, according to the respondents, which are from the financial sector, drought and floods are the physical events with the highest average expected impact on financial system assets. And delinquency is the most commonly mentioned climate risk transmission channel to financial system. So this is an information just to say that it is relevant and it is perceived and must be managed, isn't it? So the proper allocation of resources are important, and the changes and the risks are perceived, and the change must be done, isn't it? Another example of physical climate risk is that in 2021, crop losses, we also faced crop losses due to Brazilian drought. The amounts of reimbursed by our national insurance, the ProAgro program to guarantee agriculture and livestock activity, was the highest ever. And from an average of around 100 million in the 2 previous years, the reimbursement because of this loss achieved up to 1 billion in 2021-2022 crop. This is also public information already disclosed. This is besides the damage to the uninsured, okay? And also because besides the effects, the direct effect on agro, also because of the energy matrix is pretty much an hydro-based energy matrix locally, and a very clean energy matrix, but based on hydro majority. The drought affected the energy matrix, the thermal electric using industries, they were activated, and this increased the cost of energy. So with micro and microeconomic impacts, and resulting in impacts on inflation. So just to see as all this chain is connected, isn't it? And since we all aware of physical climate risks, regulation policies are on the way, and we have then transition climate risks, isn't it? So an example just to bring here that it's in the top of discussion, isn't it, is the EU deforestation free regulation, which it's connected to cacao, soy, coffee, cattle, and beef, and wood and rubber supply chains. And also this, the implications, for example, for Brazil are being discussed. So the cattle sector may face stronger challenges to rapidly adjust to the production system to this deforestation-free value chain. Traceability is a challenge up to the first supplier in the chain. And also discussions are around the standard risk or not, how these risks, regional risks, will be categorized, if all the regions will be standard or not. So this is just to put in a context of what we see as physical and climate physical and transition climate risks. And then we have the innovative technology, as we have already said in the first slide, that can help us to try to achieve and implement solutions, to develop solutions to face these some challenges and to address some issues we have now. So we can mention artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things, sensor technologies, and use it as tools to optimize resource use, to enhance supply chain transparency, for example, with blockchain, isn't it? To enable ongoing monitoring and reporting. So sensors, for example, the consumption of energy can be automatically measured by sensors and reported. It's just an example. And avoid greenwashing using data-driven technology, isn't it? But just to, we must also not be naive. So besides these opportunities, we also have challenges with the technology itself, isn't it? The technology must be accessible, must be affordable, tailored to the diverse needs of farmers across different regions and contexts, and this is a challenge. And that's why we have also initiatives worldwide and opportunities for academia in business and third sector to discuss how we can commonly achieve this common solution for this problem, isn't it? And moreover, we must guard against unintended consequences of this technology. For example, data privacy concerns, digital exclusions, exacerbation of inequalities, and also other social and environmental impacts, because the consumption itself of energy, for example, of these technologies can be a huge challenge, isn't it? Here, just to give specific examples of solutions that were already disclosed and are publicly available to be read through internet. For example, in the end of 2023, there was this COP28 tech sprint. I had the honor to be in the judge panel, but some solutions were proposed to address these agricultural challenges using technology. And for example, some solutions, they focused in carbon footprint in the measurement of carbon footprint for agricultural activities and track crops. And for example, there are two solutions specifically that were among the winners and that can be used here as case study for us. For example, the 6 grains utilize mobile fintech, geospatial data sets, and integrated mobile data collection system to accelerate the sustainable Arabic gum crop practices, so in Africa, across African Sahel, and help smallholders establish themselves as commercial players with access to credit, insurance, and traders. So this is one of the examples. And Mistio is focused on insurance, so harnesses the power of automated technology and weather data analytics to provide farmers with crop analytics, data-centric science-based parametric insurance, and a climate decision intelligence platform, minimizing the risk of financial loss and equipping them with the information needed to navigate the challenges posed by climate change. These are information in this public final report of COP28 tech sprint, where they announced all the 15 solutions and what they do, what they use, and how they intend to help on addressing these challenges, common challenges. And now, going to the end of our conversation, so talking about sustainable finance, what we see is that there are initiatives towards focusing the sustainability of these financial flows. As we all know, this year Brazil is in the presidency of G20, and in 2 weeks ago, it was announced in the meeting in São Paulo. It was announced in G20 meeting in São Paulo. It was announced this Equi-Invest Brazil program. So the program, the announcement is related to the investment of up to $5.41 billion. So this is the total amount of International Development Bank, who is a partner, a key partner, supporting this program. And the objective of this Equi-Invest Brazil program is to strengthen the climate finance and attract forest investments to promote green economy, offering exchange rate protection solutions to investment in sustainable projects in the country, so that the risk associated with exchange rate volatility are reduced. So, and this is one of the main challenges when talking to investors, isn't it? And this program is a partnership between the Brazilian government, the World Bank, and the IDB. Besides this announcement, we can also highlight other initiatives as the one related to bioeconomy, the sustainable taxonomy, national taxonomy, the discussions around payments for environmental services, as to read the context of the availability and the willingness of the capital to support this agenda. And just last week, BNDES, who is our National Development Bank, just announced this program, the new Brazilian National Climate Fund, focusing, dedicating $2 billion to finance public sector, private companies, and third sector projects in 6 priority areas. And here we can see native forests and water resources, green services and innovation, energy transition and transport logistics, public green mobility, and so on, other green industry and other urban, the sustainable urban development. But this is to give the context that we have a challenge related to these environmental and climate factors and social factors. We have technology to help us to address this, and we have capital willing to support, isn't it? And here also a final information worldwide. It's important also to remember of this initiative. The Innovative Finance for Amazon, Cerrado, and Chaco is related to the International Tropical Forest Alliance. And they announced $30 billion opportunity for banks, companies, and investors to protect South America biomes while supporting 2 of these most important commodities that are produced locally, beef and soy. And what they announced last week is that they already allocated 240 million in the last 2 years, 2022 to 2023. They intend to allocate up to 1 billion up to 2025. They are committed to, and $10 billion committed up to 2030. Okay. So my final slide is just that with this in mind, what I think I would like to leave for our discussion and work is this opportunity to joint efforts between academia, government, business, civil society, especially small farmers here. We must record them, and we must remember that they are key stakeholders. So this joint effort, it's important to co-create innovative solutions, to share best practice, to mobilize resources for an impactful action, and working in an international cooperation as we are doing here, isn't it? So, and for sure, based on principles of responsibility and equity, and addressing these transboundary and international challenges we all have to achieve a sustainable future. So thank you very much, and I will give you the word back to Monomita and open to debate. Thank you, Monomita.
Thank you, Vivian. It's really interesting. And I got an apology from the Dean of the Business School. He got caught up in another meeting that he cannot leave now, but I'm happy to introduce our Brunel Business School. So in Brunel Business School, we have several departments and like different research groups, and we have a couple of undergraduate program and postgraduate programs, as well as we have this Brunel Hive where we collaborate with businesses and we provide training and other support for the people in the community. So we were one of the leading schools who got the funding from the government, UK government, for Help to Grow scheme and Build Back. So we are working with the local community on different projects. So if you want to know more about business school, please feel free to write to us. So I shared the link of the business school. So that's everything about Brunel Business School. And if you want to know more about our course offerings or other research activities, how you can collaborate, like the way we are collaborating with FDC, BRASP, and other organizations. So if you want to know more about that, please feel free to write to me. And if you have any question, please feel free to write your question in the chat function. And I also shared the email that you have to write request for the participation certificate, and please write your full name so that we knew which name should appear on the certificate. And we might take a little bit of time, so hopefully by next week we will try to send out all the certificates. I got a couple of questions for Marcelo and you, Viviane. So for Marcelo, how you think that what are the main challenges in agribusiness, especially in Latin America, and is it coming from a challenge for international collaboration, or we can address those challenges if we have better collaboration with other organizations around the world? So what is your thought around that?
Well, thank you so much for the question. I think it's a bit of everything. Inclusion is the main fact. So whenever we discuss international issues, I want to give as an example the new EU directive. It's a kind of law that I used to say that I love and hate at the same time. I love the law because it's the first one who is internationally tackling the issue of deforestation. So this is important. But I hate because it's an unfair, it's an exclusion law, because it excludes small and medium-sized producers worldwide, as they have no condition to fulfill with the compliance and the governance that the EU apply. And whenever you say that this is a just transition, the term just, it varies from time to time. And I give you an example. The EU gave the world 18 months from the date of the signature of the EU directive to transform the entire food system worldwide, 18 months. But when you talk about the energy transition within the EU, they had from 2022 to 2030, 8 years. So we cannot compare what we call unjust, okay? So whenever we talk about to change food systems, we have to balance what we mean for just, and more than that, how we want to include the small production worldwide. I don't think we would love to be under a system with 10, 15 big producers controlling the food system worldwide. In some products, we already have that, not in terms of production, but in terms of trading. We have just a few companies controlling like 56, 70% of the world trading. So in order to talk about a new food system in a balanced way, we must start the conversation down to the top. I mean, how do we involve growers and how do we link them with the processors, manufacturer, with the finance sector, with the supermarket, with the trading, and so on. So it's a bit of everything. And what we need, it's a pre-competitive collaboration, something that is lacking in most of the sectors worldwide.
Thank you. That was my related question, that is it more competition that is kind of creating a challenge for the industry, that they cannot move forward because they are just competing to get the profit? And if I think about the small and medium-sized businesses, it's very hard for them to arrange the finance and everything to address those challenges, and they might not have enough skills and enough money to adopt this new technology to advance in their food production supply chain, maybe. Isn't it? That's a really big challenge.
Yes, it is, and you are completely right. One thing it's what we wish, and one thing it's what we do. As we all know, we have to combine aspirations with capabilities. Aspiration is limitless, but capability is limited. So when we have a big aspiration like the EU directive, and we don't match with the capability from the most of countries in the world, how they can apply the law, it's because we're putting only aspirations ahead of the worldwide capabilities, and this cannot work. A reason why we saw in the past 2 or 3 weeks the EU making step backs in this law in several issues, because they finally realized what we tried to tell them in the past several years, that something was not okay, that the law was good, but the implementation was wrong. I think finally they saw that, and besides the excuse that's because the complaints of countries outside Europe, this is not the total truth. It's more also on the complaint of the local growers, the local producers, the local traders, the local importers, that they still don't know how to implement fully the EU directive.
That the companies in the EU, they are also part of the supply chain. And say if I think about Brazil, so there are several products coming from Brazil. Like just now I was taking the Brazilian nut and I picked up during my lunchtime. So I was thinking that if someone is bringing this stuff from Brazil, it's not produced here in the UK. So definitely everyone is related in this whole supply chain. And on top of that, as you correctly mentioned, that when we think about climate change, carbon footprint, these things are heavily linked with food production. So people are thinking about energy consumption, but how that could be embedded in the whole supply chain of the food production, that's not thought properly. And these regulations are not at all helping. They are helping to some extent, but I think it's still not able to capture the complete picture. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. It's really interesting. Yeah, so over to you, Vivian, and I can see that there are a couple of questions. So what are the international funding programs backed by World Organization? Okay, you already shared that, especially agribusiness farms in Africa. Thank you very much. And what impact does the EU deforestation-free regulation have on the cocoa industry? So do you have any thought around that?
The impacts of EU regulation in cocoa?
Yeah.
I think Marcelo probably have more information than myself. I can talk more about the funding. I can talk like if we are in a bar with a beer. I would lovely, but I'm not the expert. Marcelo is more appropriate for that, isn't it, Marcelo?
Well, I think it's going to be very limited because cocoa plantation, it's like a consolidated industry worldwide. So even in countries like Brazil, where we are seeing a increase in production, this is being done in an agroforestry system or even replacing degraded areas. So considering deforested areas from 2020 up to now, that what is obliged by the EU directive, I don't see much impact on this industry.
Yeah, so it seems like when you try to look into the practical side of those things, you can see hardly anything is happening, but the regulations are coming up again and again, and we are still not sure that what can be done. And I think that relates to my next question for Vivian, that what kind of role the banks are playing in this whole story, that how active the banks are, because I think in Brazil the banks are quite international banks, just like any other country, and because of the globalized nature of this world, everyone is dealing anywhere. So you touched upon some of the points in your presentation, but if you could give us some idea about how the banks are helping the community or the whole agribusiness.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Monomita. It's important to highlight, I don't know how aware the community here are, that in Brazil, in fact, the initial actions of the financial system related to sustainable finance, they date from 1995. So since 1995, 5 banks of Brazil, big ones, they signed the Green Protocol and already started connecting the lending to sustainable criteria. Since 2008, we already have deforestation regulations for the financial sector issued by the central bank. These regulations, if you put in the Google, Sustainability Central Bank of Brazil, for example, you will find a page where you have a timeline. And in the timeline, you have these actions of the private sector and of the regulator. And you can see that there are a lot of evolution of regulations and actions. So the regulatory sides evolving on this thematic, and also the institutions. And in a nutshell, so coming up to this moment, what we can see is there are a strict regulation focused on disclosure, qualitative impacts, and also in policies related to connecting the lending and the credit to these environmental, climate, and social factors. And the regulator already announced quantitative aspects that will come up to they will put in consultation this year and be published up to the end of the year, related to TCFD, the Task Force for Climate Financial Disclosure, which is now incorporated to ISSB, the International Sustainability Standard Board, and it's happening. So for example, in the Rural Credit Bureau and in the Rural Credit, the geodesic, how it's in, the land, you have codes and you have verified through satellites the area. And if this area it's that it's asking for rural credit, it's in regions where they are not allowed to produce, for example, Amazon biome, you can already put and check automatically this not allowed production in that area. And this can support the decision of not allowing the rural credit to the production in these areas. So this is an example of, and this rural credit, it's an incentivized credit. So there are impacts for the ones who are asking for the credit with these additional costs, since the rural credits have these barriers to be allowed and offered in those conditions of non-compliance. So these are examples. So in a nutshell, what the bank can do is to help on in this compliance and supporting the proper credit for the positive actions and the non-incentivized and restricting the non-incentivized credit to the ones who are not aligned with the regulation, and which is already pretty much restricted for these specific biomes and deforestation.
Yeah. So don't you think that the companies who are asking for funding from central bank, they have to comply different things, and they have to do lots of paperwork, and that's kind of stopping them to go to the bank for the credit?
I'm sorry, Monomita. The companies, they ask the credit for the commercial banks, yes?
Yeah.
And what's the question?
Is it that the process of the banking process that you follow in Brazil, that's kind of creating, demotivating the people to come forward for funding from the banks to adopt more green technology or green agribusiness?
We are already in this transition, because if you just have a look in all the policies and evolutions and regulations related to agriculture in Brazil, you see that there are already a positive benefits being placed by the Rural Credit Bureau in the Central Bank of Brazil, which is applied to the commercial banks, and the restrictions related to rural credits in non-compliant areas. So this is already ongoing. So this process of the financial system supporting this agenda is already pretty much evolved if we compared with other regions. So I totally agree, Monomita, that there is a role to be fulfilled, and it's ongoing.
I think there is another question that regenerative agriculture is not standardized across supply chain, moving through different countries and to different end markets. So should there be a process toward greater standardization of regenerative agriculture to avoid greenwashing by businesses, and who should be leading this between international bodies, academia, and business?
Yeah, very good question. I think Marcelo is possibly the best one to answer this one. Marcelo, are you here with us, or?
I think I can start. At least not. Yeah, Marcelo is here. Yeah, Marcelo, it's for you.
Yes, I am here. Can you just please repeat the question, because I lost part of your.
Oh, yeah. So Alice is asking that regenerative agriculture is not standardized across the supply chain, moving through different countries to different end markets. So should there be a process where we can standardize the regenerative agriculture that might avoid the greenwashing? And if that is the case, then who should take the lead to link the international bodies, academia, and businesses?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, because regenerative agriculture can be everything today, as you don't have something to standardize. There is a ongoing work on that. It started at the COP 28 in Dubai last year. So it was launched by the COP presidency under the UNFCCC. There are several companies involved. They developed what they are calling the Regen 10, which is a group of people who are trying to set a group of criteria for regen agriculture. This is under discussion and supposedly to be launched during the COP 30 in Brazil next year.
Oh, yeah. I know that's a great opportunity for all of us to attend the COP 30 when it happens in next time. So I think that's kind of answering your question. And there is a question for Vivian, that is there any regulation on auditing the ESG objectives in green loans from the central bank to the bank market? Does the central bank request any third party to give their opinion on green loan contracts?
Yeah, very good question. Thank you. You know what? I think I will send you, Monomita, some links of presentations we have made in English in the country, explaining all the regulation and supervision. I think this will be really interesting. Or we can also invite the Central Bank of Brazil formally to provide this explanation. We can discuss this, isn't it? This is something. So the recent, to answering the question, the recent regulation requires a policy by the financial institutions, which incorporate the environmental, climate, and social factors as a condition for analysis for granting those loans and credits. And the institution needs to provide evidence, so these need to be audited, possibly audited, to verify if this policy is really being implemented and these factors are being analyzed in these loans and in this concession. And then there is a very complex process of formularies of information that the banks need to fulfill, and the supervision uses to verify in a spot basis this compliance. And what is happening in Brazil and worldwide is that technology is being considered and used to make this compliance verification more efficient. So RegTex and SupTex. So this is what is it's on discussion not only locally but in the NGFS, for example, the Network for Green the Financial System. So
thank you
the
very
answer
much.
is yes, it's already done. But for example, I was an auditor in the beginning of my career in the private sector in PwC, and the auditors here among us know that audit is in a spot basis, in a sample basis, isn't it? But technology is here to help us to make it in a more broad analysis, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially the big data analytics are helping a lot, and the blockchain
Yeah.
technology where you can
Yeah.
keep everything on the block and anyone can check, and you can handle big data easily. Yeah, thank you very much. So we are spot on time. So thank you very much, Marcelo and Viviane and Daniel and Leonardo. And definitely Matthews from FDC was a big help behind the screen. And Edward from Brunel Business School, he was also helping me in developing this, set up this webinar. So thank you to all of you, and thank you to all the participants. And hopefully we will continue this discussion. And if any one of you have any idea that you want to explore with all of us, so please email us. So Daniel already shared, Daniel and Leonardo, they shared all the contacts. So please feel free to contact us. And this is an emerging topic, and we all need to work hard together to address those challenges to have a beautiful world in future. So thank you very much, all of you, and have a nice day. Talk to you soon, and see you next time in our next webinar. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.